ultimately it all comes down to this. Can they adapt in time to bring us to a Game 5, or will Damwon secure themselves their back-to-back World Championship title?
And if they do it, it has to be 15 games through the knockout stage at Worlds. They have to go the complete distance if they are going to turn this one around.
The classic LPL.
It's just the tenacity of this team cannot be overstated, as we are already into the draft.
All right, and the Aphelios banned out this time by EDG forces the ripple effect of those changes. Now you don't follow it up with the Nami. Jarvan comes through instead, trying to target JJ instead of the bottom lane and instead of that Lucian-Nami combination. So either they get the Lee Sin left up or the Lucian-Nami combination here.
Because I think EDG is sitting here saying, you know what? We will play Lee Sin. We don't think you will play Lucian Nami. Of course, Khan can lock in the Lucian, but do you just lock in a Lucian top this early on into the draft? We're about to find out.
And can you actually lock in the Lucian here? Because you want to lock in Lucian Nami. You can't get it together if your first pick on blue side. Of course, Nami not going to be picked without Lucian all that often, so maybe you throw that Gambit, and it looks like that's what EDG are going to do. But is there some way to get Beryl on a Nami here to try and throw a wrench into their works?
There's no other partners for Nami that are as good, and I don't think the value from the steal away is enough to actually give you that choice, but they might do it. What's going to be the partner, though? Okay, is it going to be like a misfortune, or, you know, what sort of dominating bottom side of the map would you have? And then for the side of EDG,
wow,
they could also you could also remember this is a flexible now. Yeah, Lucian, we'll just give it to Flandre again and have him split top.
If I'm EDG, I just go want to play a Lucian Thresh.
Yeah.
One of the old school, super dominant, powerful.
The wife steal bottom lane. I remember that one.
But I think that it's also just great into Nami, and I also think it can be a great answer into the Jhin as well. We haven't really seen much of the champion this tournament so far, but then I go and forget that Mako has only really played range champions at this tournament, and the Lulu is going to be locked in instead. So still a very powerful bot lane duo for EDG.
Exactly, and still can still provide those buffs to the Lucian to get the most out of the passive. Yeah, it's ideal with Nami, but Lulu as well has been utilized in so many of these matchups.
And instead of having to, you know, flex the Lucian around or things like that, you get the coveted Graves pick that has been so incredibly pivotal in these games. Showmaker going to lock away the Talon here for Canyon. And that is going to be a lot of firepower coming out of the jungle. But still, the solo lanes completely left up in the air. And let's see whether Damwon actually have a bit of a plan for this one as we go into the second ban phase.
So if I'm Damwon, obviously you're looking to try and get yourself top lane solid answers, but you also have to blind pick something. And, well, I say blind pick, you can just pick your answer into the Kennen. The Graves. The reason why I mentioned Kennen is because I expect EDG to look to ban that.
His brain's too fast for his mouth.
The Gwen as well. Exactly that, Atlas. And I think that it makes sense for EDG to remove a lot of those elements, and already we are going to see them taken off the board. But it does seem that Damwon is interested in removing Scout's mid lane options, because what we can say about Showmaker is that he is a very versatile and flexible mid lane, and we can say the same thing about Scout. But if you remove some of his comforts in the form of Ryze, LeBlanc, or is still up and available and now is going to be removed, you're now saying, well, okay, you're going to play the control mages, with which we have seen BDD shut you down on, so Showmaker can likely do the same thing with this final counter pick at the end.
Yeah, they could be setting themselves up for protecting Showmaker to blind pick the Syndra first on red side, thereby leaving the final counter pick for Khan here and get their leverage and matchup that way.
That's very true.
By already double protecting it.
Yep, double top lane bans coming through from EDG though, and that Syndra pick I think is exactly what they want. You need setup CC, Talon doesn't exactly offer too much, and Syndra feels like a bit of a no-brainer here. Will be the first time we've seen it, surprisingly, from Showmaker in this series. But no, the Gwen is going to be the consideration first. A lot of variation when it comes to the damage, and I really like it.
Yeah, EDG opted to ban the Jace instead of the Gwen, the other big AP option that has been very, very frequent into the Graves for top side. So they end up getting it here for Khan, and he definitely feels comfortable.
I got really excited because I thought maybe this means we'll get to see Showmaker on an AD mid laner, but then I'm like, well, okay, they do have Talon, they do have Jhin, so they probably can
Mid lane
afford
Talon.
is that, oh yeah, maybe that's the throw out. We'll have to wait and see. But the other blind pick that we have seen come out from Scout, in particular in the semifinals, was his Zoe, and he was massive on this champion, getting a lot of early kills thanks to JJ, and the moment he got a slight lead, he ran away with the game.
And also the Viego that did see a lot of success and then sort of fell out when we got to the knockouts. It felt like he was really starting to climb the ranks when it came to the junglers, and then it was JJ just picking Jarvan all the time, and there were Lee Sins happening all the time, and Viego sort of fell down. Of course, that's third spot in priority from the jungle. Not really necessarily needing to be looked at just yet, but it is the Orianna locked away for Showmaker, one of his favorites, but also not exactly the most exciting.
So what I love about these drafts is when you look at frontline, Graves is like the tankiest person in the entire game. There are just a lot of squishy targets, a lot of high damage targets, and a lot of things that can go wrong for both sides depending on how the team fights play out. That level of volatility is exactly what you want to see from two teams who are so good when it comes to team fighting.
Lots of damage, lots of range. This increases the importance on those small movements, on vision control to set up these picks, because like you're saying, these fights are going to be over quick and the rewards are going to be very big for winning them because they're all squishy here. They also have reset champions in Viego. You know, they're putting so much faith here into JJ, this young guy trained up by Clear Love, taking over here for EDG, and this is such an exciting way to go up match point.
Yeah. I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this Nami is going to work on the bottom side. Is that denial going to pay off? Because it's something we were talking about at the beginning of the draft, and we're still not necessarily sure. But one thing I do know is that so much of this hinges on Scout. If they can get that first bubble, that first pick, then it's going to be so incredibly beneficial for EDG to try and get control of this game. And as we hop onto the rift for what might be the final game of the World Championship, see whether EDG can bring us to those silver scrapes.
So EDG sneaking into the bot lane, seeing if they can find themselves a pick.
They're going
perhaps
fishing.
Some early vision. It looks like nothing is going to come off the back of this. Beryl is going to respect that, and all of EDG will back to base. So I kind of want to use this opportunity very quickly to talk about Damwon. They are so close to securing their second World Championship title, but I also want to highlight how few titles this team actually has. It was only in 2019, Atlas, this organization even joined the LCK, and it wasn't even in 2019 where the dominance actually started.
No, it wasn't. It was when Ghost joined the lineup. And of course, that was in 2020 in summer. And it felt like something clicked, right, with this squad. But that means that it has not been very much time since this team really found their stride, since they really solidified themselves at the top of the LCK. Beryl now taking a fair bit of damage here, but Ebb and Flow is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I was going to say, they don't have very many titles yet because they haven't had that long of a history, like you're saying. Not a lot of time to convert on those. See about this bottom lane presence for the brush control, though. You can see how much they highly value it, and just 2v1 pushing Mako out of that side lane brush in order to get that deep ward on the side lane.
Yeah, Mako actually taking half his health bar for it as well. The Battle of the Enchanters so far being won by Beryl. Just trying to ebb and flow. I wonder if he self-casted it. That was what I learned about Nami a long time ago.
It's such a big thing, the vision in the side brush in these double range matchups, because being able to drop the extra damage, the aggro that comes from the range minions when you're going for these trades means everything. And you can see how frequently they're going for those trades, playing so aggressive. Meanwhile, it is going to be topside start for both junglers, so you know what that means, boys.
I'm thinking about a bottom lane party.
And this ward as well, sitting on top of the Raptors, just about to fade, but Canyon, that ward gave him enough information to know exactly where JJ is pathing and how they will answer it. So I expect some commotion towards the bot side of the map. The biggest problem for Canyon right now is Scout has Pro in the mid lane. Very common for Zoes in the early laning phase, being able to get this early push thanks to the low cooldown and low mana cost of their Q, and the amount of damage that it can do as well. It just means that you have consistent push in the early laning phase, and that's great for enabling your jungler to pretty much get whatever crap they want.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I actually like that we have this matchup between the Zoe and the Orianna, because I feel like ultimately it can go either way, and it depends who is able to play the game that they want to play as the game goes on when it comes to Zoe or Orianna. Zoe wanting to take control of the mid-game, Orianna wanting to get things done elsewhere. But JJ taking some control here of the enemy blue buff, and Canyon doesn't have Smite, JJ does, so this is going to be the Viego's blue buff.
Yeah, like what he does there, you know, goes and threatens on the Gromp. So then, you see the Smite in front of you, now I have full confidence. Your blue buff is mine.
Exactly that. Very well played from JJ. He will be able to get himself the crab. And because of the power that they have in top lane, he may very well translate that straight over to another one. Scout's going to go back to base. He doesn't have to TP. Oh, okay, he's going to cancel it very quickly. But he doesn't have to TP here because of the position of the wave, but he has that option available to him should he want to try and assist JJ. But look at that. Great early game start for JJ. Kind of getting that small lead over Canyon is something that many junglers often aspire towards.
And again, too, looking at the lane matchups and how the jungles can play off that, this time is another one in a row where Flandre should have control early on. Gwen scales extremely well, but Graves so much early wave control, keeps pushing the wave up, forcing him under tower, getting that priority and the early movement towards topside for EDG. So JJ happy with all of the early priority that's been afforded to him, and that is so nice to start out as a carry jungler that Viego is.
And you saw actually both of the camps on the bottom side of the map. Canyon's just sort of just left alone, didn't actually see that the Raptors and the Grunts were there, decided that he needed to get that reset in right away. So down 3 camps right now.
Massive jungle advantage here. Again, playing off of those lanes with the lane control. That means everything. It's just a dream scenario when you get to pick and choose. And I really like the choice that he made to go for that contest, specifically over by the blue Gromp, you know, with the Smite exchanges and being able to counter jungle in addition to getting those double crabs for themselves. So, EDG, you know, good early game, at least from the jungle perspective.
But not translating into necessarily a gold advantage right now. As you can see, Khan doing very well towards the top side, and the bottom lane for Damwon Kia right now doing okay. As we don't have any backs just yet for our bottom side of the map, and we'll see when those resets do come in as a bit of a fight breaks out. There's the exhaust bubble, does land onto the Lulu, but thankfully for Viper, he does avoid it. It's Damwon Kia still with control of the lane.
And you can see how obnoxious the sustain is from Damwon's bot lane. Fleet footwork, also has the biscuits, also started boots and health pots, also has the healing from Beryl. It's just...
the list goes on.
As much as Viper wants to fight, he doesn't have... Ooh, good flash there from Showmaker. JJ putting a little pressure down, but Viper doesn't... Viper and Mako don't have the consistent damage to be able to wear this bot lane down, which is what they love to do when they draft the Lucian bot side. So while typically this is a bot lane that they try to get ahead, just relying on their 2v2 prowess, Damwon's duo has been doing a great job of handling that pressure.
Well, you can see JJ in the right position here to deter Canyon from looking for a potential dive, although Mako's looking pretty tasty right now, and you can see the Talon remaining in position to potentially go for this one. Plate very close. Not going to go down just yet. Now Khan looking for a bit of damage here. The needlework not quite connecting onto Flandre there, and he's just using it to push out this wave, get himself into the position that he wants.
Meanwhile, Canyon playing off of his winning, pushing bottom lane. The Nami steal away, really paying dividends for this team.
Mako is playing with fire down here on the bottom side, but Khan, he's sleepy, and he is going to drop as Scout. Portal jumping around, but he will be able to pick up that first blood. Canyon immediately exhausted as he gets towards the bottom side, and the defense from EDG down here is beautiful. Ghost actually taking a turret shot he didn't want. Polymorph, just beautiful under Canyon, and the flash will get Mako out of position, even sidestepping the bubble. Damn, some beautiful defensive play from EDG.
The schmovement from EDG's bot lane. This duo just sidestepping absolutely everything, and EDG getting an advantage on the top side, and JJ gonna steal away the red buff as well. So everything going right for EDG in this early game. But let's have a look back and see exactly what happened to Khan in the river.
Yeah, well, he walked over a ward towards the scuttle when their jungler is bottom into the dark and scary river where JJ and Scout are waiting with open arms.
Yeah, just wanted some honey fruit. A little bit too dangerous. I don't think it was quite worth it.
So, of course, the good news here for Damwon is that they were able to put Viper and Mako behind by burning all of their summoner spells, getting a CS lead, also getting themselves a tower plate. So even though there is a gold discrepancy, it's not so dramatic that it's not something that Damwon can come back from. The big question is, okay, well, Khan died in top lane. Flandre is now getting very quickly ahead because of the CS that he's been able to build. A kill onto Scout and a flashless Orianna. What can JJ do with all of that those options at his disposal. And he's also level 7 to Canyon's level 5.
Well, you can definitely start up Rift Herald since you have such priority. You mentioned both solo lanes, you know, burning summoner spells and being able to trade sides of the map there. Herald won't even be contested by Damwon because of those advantages from the solo lane matchup. So JJ gets his alone time with their Herald and Damwon trying to fish around on the opposite side of the map.
And this is so smart from EDG's duo as well, because they know that Canyon wants to cross map and he's being denied the red buff, which means that he just can't get level 6, Kobe. He keeps getting it denied. This is so frustrating as a jungler.
Yeah, all he can pick up are these small rocks on the bottom side, the little baby Krugs. He's been kicked around the map from the opening. This has just been such a well-orchestrated jungle diff, and I can't believe I'm saying this, against Canyon!
Right? When was the last time we saw this? It was a very, very long time ago. But JJ doing a fantastic job, and in fact, EDG doing a fantastic job against Canyon this game.
And that's why junglers will always point to winning lanes, but it is really what you do with them too. So nice setup there from EDG. Now they've got the Rift Herald in hand as well. They defended bottom side, Dragon as well as Krugs even, with part of them being taken down. And this is going to be a pretty nice reset for them. Again, some priority towards the early stages.
Some snips going down towards that top side, but Damwon here, as we pan down towards the bottom lane, we see that Beryl and Go still doing fine, but EDG, these neutral objectives seem to have so much control over them, despite not quite being 1,000 gold ahead or any really massive margin. They're controlling the map. It's just very, very powerful, and they will be able to take this first Infernal Drake. Next one going to be the Ocean. And yes, I am very excited about potential Cloud Soul.
Well, I was going to say that I'm very excited about potentially 5 games. Of course, we're still very early into this one, but not very often do you get World Finals that go all the way to 5. But EDG, I think the biggest surprise to many is how competitive they are being with Damwon. Many expected Damwon to just come in and roll over this opposition, but EDG have gone through the gauntlet almost and have had to fight 5 games in every single one of their series, and they may very well be able to force a 3rd and final one here in the World Finals.
And we get to see in this game too, if it was worth it for Damwon to pick into these losing early but scaling option lanes that they have got for their solo lanes, because when, as everyone knows, can scale extremely well, 1 to 2 items there, becomes a much different beast as far as your team fighting when it finally comes together. And the Orianna pairs quite well with the Talon for a shockwave delivery with a lot of extra burst damage. And right now, it is Canyon that has been paying the price for some of this. Extra map control given over to EDG, and them leveraging those picks.
But also, Jhin into squishy targets, right? One of his weaknesses in the late game is that he only gets 4 shots. When you don't have that many resistances, those 4 shots are quite lethal. So you're very right in that Damwon definitely have some very powerful late game options. We'll see though how EDG can leverage this early game lead that they've built themselves up. It's only 1.1k right now. And after using the Herald, they weren't able to take that many plates down. But you can see them slowly starting to chip away on the top side of the map.
Yeah, and it's around... This is the beginning of the Zoe time that we're getting to as well. So EDG, they're not necessarily on the clock just yet for forcing themselves to have advantages. It's going to be coming up relatively soon, though, at that 15-minute mark where they want to take down that Zoe turret. And my old mate Wolf really loves to talk about, and then really get to work denying vision and getting Zoe into the position to be able to land those bubbles. As Canyon clearing out some vision, but once again thwarted and stymied at the opportunities, looking for these potential ganks, and the Talon's still sitting at 0-0-0.
Yeah, and I feel for him, you know, because you don't look at a lot of these lanes with a lot of setup for you as an assassin jungler, and because of the early stages being pushed out and not being able to keep up in farm now, he's basically got to play off of the, you know, the priority that Ghost and Beryl were able to earn for themselves, pushing down on that bottom side of the map, but EDG making very good use of it as JJ moves up for the red buff respawn.
Yeah, it's going to be another steal away as Bubble lands on the bottom side of the map. Khan taking a fair bit of damage here. Some needlework goes on in, but thankfully he's immune when you're not in that circle. Double exhaust to go down as there's the tidal wave. Viper taking a fair bit of damage, and once again he's going to get bubbled as Canyon now on the bottom side, and the curtains have been called. The wild growth comes in, but I don't think it's going to save them as finally Canyon's on the board, and they'll wipe out 2 bottom lane.
Play off that bottom lane. That is the lane that you are praying to as the Talon jungle. And this time, he returns again, Vedius. Time after time, returns again. This one, he gets paid.
Flawless execution from Damwon as well. Just everything done to perfection. Mako tried to hold his ultimate at the risk of being dived, but Ghost with the ultimate held onto it, waiting for Canyon to choose a target, and then Ghost went for the other one. Just very well done dive, and now EDG are trying to get something back from the other side of the map, but Khan saying, nope, not today. We're going to make sure that you do not get absolutely everything.
Yeah, these Krugs being battled over right now as Beryl comes on in. Tidecaller's Blessing now available onto the Gwen. Can actually be quite dangerous here, but it's going to be so many plates and so much money to fund it.
Yeah, fortunately though, the benefit of winning on bottom side too is that Beryl got to recall early there and come out and at least protect Khan, allow him to stay around while he watches his turret go down. Here's another look at the exchange that got the summoners out beforehand, and you already saw the Talon moving down on your mini-map. Yeah, there are control wards here from EDG, but there's nothing you can do about it because he's just jumping over the walls and he's going to get there faster anyway. Again, so much credit to the bottom lane of Damwon. That is always pointed to for people thinking of a way to get in against this team. And yet, Ghost and Beryl utilize this matchup so well, stealing away that Nami, then aggressively pushing in over and over and getting the summoner spells, opening it up for a bottom side play.
And if they didn't, Damwon here would look very, very silly right now. Because if they don't win that lane, they have nothing that's winning on the map. The Talon is literally useless, and it all falls apart. But now, it's going to be Canyon immediately blowing up. So I apologize for the cast curse there, Canyon. But really good setup there for EDG in the river.
Okay, so it's just constantly trading back and forth. Damwon will immediately make their way towards the dragon, but look at this. They're saying, hey, Flandre, you solo this. We're actually going to go fight them over at this Drake because we do not want them stacking that potential win condition. We want to leverage our early game as much as possible. And without Canyon here to smite steal, it's going to be very difficult for Damwon to really try and trade that one back. So great stuff from EDG. They convert that pick into a Herald. They can use that to siege the mid lane tower down and then give themselves more access into the enemy jungle.
And if we do the 15-minute check, that is ticked over right now. It's 2,000 gold lead for EDG, and they just don't lose very often if they're ahead from this particular point, and especially by a margin like this, one of the bigger ones that we've seen this early in the game.
2,000 gold and all of the neutral objectives that have popped up on the map yet. Both Heralds and the Dragon already in the bag, and with taking down that...
Okay. Okay, Flandre.
With taking down the top side turret, now you can transition over because they push out that wave. They can have everybody rotate down the Dragon and keep up their control of these neutral objectives.
EDG bouncing back in a way that we love to see. Damwon, they team fought very well in the last game, but it felt like that the whole game was very close. EDG had a small early game gold lead, but now it feels like that they've got a lot of comfort picks, and initially you would expected that strong bot side, but I love what Damwon did in the draft by going for this Nami. You've been talking about it all game, Kobe, the fact that they took a gamble going for this Nami pick, right? We don't normally see Nami Jhin as a duo, but we saw how much sustain it had. We saw how well they traded into Viper and Mako, and the advantages that they've gotten have keeping this gold relatively close to EDG and have given them a potential win condition to get to that late game team fighting position.
Yeah, and I really like the sort of CC combo that they're demonstrating here. It works very similarly to sort of like Lulu Jhin mixed with a Zillion Jhin, right? Because you get that extra movement speed as well that the Lulu and the Zillion sort of provide. So it makes sense. It's sort of something that we were talking about in the first series as well. But Nami going to find it very difficult to ward, especially into a Zoe composition. So as this game goes on, we're looking at Damwon with a scaling composition, but can you get onto the map in order to try and claw your way back is going to be the question. And so far, Damwon have not had the answer whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly, because EDG have done so well with all their priorities. JJ is 2 levels up on Canyon as the Rift Trail charges into turret number 2, and a lot of poke goes through. EDG have done such a good job leveraging this and controlling the jungle advantage that there are no dragons to rely on in this game like they did in the previous game. The comeback mechanic for Damwon was really good team fight. We've got this scaling, and we've been stacking these dragons to try and slingshot us when we win that fight, when we cash in on the soul. resurface in this game. But this time around, EDG have denied them the counters.
And the thing is, when you have the early game lead and you know you're stronger at this point in the game, you can also leverage Drakes as a means to like, hey, come and fight us. You know, sure, maybe at 3 items you're stronger than us, but okay, we'll fight you at 1, we'll fight you at 2, and we'll force you to come and fight thanks to this early Drake stacking. So I think EDG, well, I mean, it's obvious. They have everything that they want, right? Like, they've gotten themselves early towers, they've gotten all the heralds, they've gotten all the drakes. Their laners have completed all their first core itemization. They're already working on their second. Things are looking great for EDG. The only concern is that they're playing against Damwon Kia, current world champions. They have a tendency to find their way back into games like this, by and large, due to their fantastic and world-class team fighting.
Not to mention their control of map play as well, later in the game as well. I think that if you compare these two teams, EDG built a lot based on team fighting, but Damwon Kia do like to play side lanes a lot, and they do have a Gwen. She can excel in that department, but we'll have to see more from Damwon Kia, because right now, EDG have had full control, and they're not letting up. And at this stage, I think that we should be getting the Silver Scrape record out of the sheath.
Careful, Atlas, careful. Your caster curses have been powerful today.
I just want as much commentary as possible today, and I think everyone else does as well. It's been an absolute joy between both of these teams. I personally wasn't expecting EDG to step up the way that they have, and I think that's exactly what it's been. It's been EDG meeting the highs of Damwon Kia instead of the inverse, which would be Damwon stepping down. That last game was absolutely a testament to that exact fact. I just want as much of this series as I possibly can get.
All right, here comes Talon hopping over the walls. Flandre, though, playing cautiously accordingly.
Yeah, this is a 3-level advantage for the Graves, who just, moves nimbly to the right. I'm trying to get him out.
I don't know where they got that information from, but I saw a ping in the river. It was the little blue flag, and they said Canyon is making his way towards the bot side of the map. Be careful, Flandre. And immediately he responds. But it looked to me like he was completely in fog. So just great awareness from EDG, kind of like narrowing down all that top line side vision that they do have. They're basically saying, well, if he's not here, he's got to be making his way towards bot. Yeah,
and it's also one of those things where when your other 2 lanes pull back that have been pushing, you stick out like a sore thumb if you're the only one pushing out there and no tower.
Well, EDG, like you were saying, now pushing in the mid lane. 3 members strong though, so it'll be absolutely fine. We've got 40 seconds on this Mountain Drake. It'll be soul point for EDG. We were talking about the lack of tankiness. Well, makeshift way of doing that is by picking up a couple of Mountain Drakes after your first 2 and getting yourself that meaty shield will certainly help you out. So let's see whether EDG can get themselves to that position right now with control of the river. Damwon Kia still not able to find a foothold in this game.
Yeah, and when one team has Zoe, it becomes so dangerous trying to move in towards these objectives. Scout doing a good job preemptively poking. They even get a flash out early.
Yeah, Beryl. Of course, the Nami doesn't have a lot of mobility. Does have to blow that flash. It's going to be important. Tidal Wave's available though, and Damwon still have that Wombo availability. But can they get to a position where they can actually pull the trigger? Because Scout Zoe has been so strong this whole tournament. Ghost now taking a paddle star, and EDG, they're looking to have their lunch and eat it too. They do take down the Drake.
Again, and you know, we talked about patience for Damwon. We're really seeing that from EDG here. You know, they're not overcommitting. They know that they need to leverage the poke from Zoe, and Scout just playing at the edge. I love that we are seeing Damwon also sidestep a lot of this poke. They're respecting it, but because they're showing so much respect, like they have to, they concede control over the river, and that gives the 3rd Drake over to EDG. But now Damwon looking to go on the offensive as they attack the mid-tier 1.
Yeah, they should be able to answer for this one, but what will EDG be able to offer is going to be the question. That bubble was absolutely beautiful from Scout. As the shockwave hits 3 out of nowhere, is the follow-up going to be there? And the curtains are called, and that's going to say yes. Scout still unable to get quite out of position as Showmaker picks up the kill in the end. Well, I didn't even see the orb, just popped him.
Okay, Showmaker, with the entire world here holding their breath, watching as EDG get a leg up and another objective and another objective. The Showmaker has had enough. He finds a shockwave and just opens up a kill. That was a brute force play too, because Damwon gave up 2 waves on top side that just crashed into that secondary turret. The bottom side had also been pushed in by Graves, so they really spent a decent amount to make this play, and they were stubborn. They just kept everybody mid, and it's as they're walking away, they lose sight of the ball on the side of EDG, and a great great awareness there from Showmaker. Pulls it off. He even ends up getting the last hit as well.
In that Axe Effect replay, great demonstration of the fact that Showmaker still has that killer instinct, right? Because we haven't seen that from Damwon Kia this game whatsoever. It's good to see that they're actually pulling these triggers, showing some signs of life. But still, EDG well and truly in the driver's seat. Not quite that 2,000 gold lead just yet, but those dragons are where eyes are drawn.
I could hear the frustration in your voice. It was like some Scooby-Doo, those pesky dragons. If it wasn't for those pesky dragons.
That's what EDG have built for themselves, though, and it really is a great insurance policy for the later stages of this game. Not to mention the fact that if they do get these picks, the Viego does skew things so powerfully.
And you can see Damwon again. They keep fishing for these trailing split push plays. It's really common when you have two solo lane split pushers and they both have teleport, and you can have one shadow the other. But since there's so much mobility and talent, being able to jump over walls and parkour through the map, he also can just kind of hover between lanes here, and you see Kane doing a pretty good job providing some battle ward vision as well. The human ward standing in there just to make sure that they can actually push up and get that last wave in.
And it's also peanut strats, as we invented in the LCK.
The peanut strats.
Yeah, he was the battle warder.
Okay.
Getting in there.
I also just wanted to highlight all this vision investment from EDG up towards the top side of the map. This is the cross map that you're seeing as the bot lane was being pushed in. EDG moved up towards the top side, and that was why we were seeing this kind of transition and why Flandre was playing so defensively. And again, EDG respecting, even though they know they're ahead, there are still ways in which Damwon can come back into this game, and they want to avoid all of those options and to make sure that they maintain control. This next Drake is going to be massive. The good news for EDG is they have a choice. They can force Damwon into a situation where, hey, do you want to do Drake, or do you want to try and fight as a Baron, maybe, depending on their positioning. The most important thing here is this mid-wave control, and so far EDG have been very consistent at fighting for it.
Yeah, I feel like the best response in those situations, when both outcomes are pretty bad for Damwon, is to try and force the fight. Because then you don't end up with one of the bad ends of the trade of objectives, since EDG have the upper hand here. You know, they're the only ones on soul points, so there's so much bigger rewards with fewer risks.
Right.
And so then if you force the fight and then you get to take whatever you want afterwards, it's king of the hill. Push them off.
Get off my land, off my lawn, as they say. It's Damwon Kia. They really want to try and find a way onto the map, but EDG have just owned everything throughout all of the watery parts, and they are the important ones. EDG, JJ just taking down the wards in the river, and with this Mountain Drake, it does open some doors for the Zoe as well. There are just so many corridors that get created.
So what I will say is Damwon just had a very good reset, because you look at their inventory, a lot of control wards at their disposal. EDG have been out on the map for a little while. Their itemization is good, but because of Damwon's base timing, they've actually been able to match pretty much across the board except for top lane. That's where Flandre does have the item advantage, and that's kind of where that goal difference exists. Good damage coming out from Showmaker. Forced to use the cleanse. And this means that basically the point I'm trying to get at, Damwon's in a good position right now and can definitely look to contest his objective.
They still need to try and get into the darkness that EDG have provided, and whether they can do that is going to be the question. With the ball helping out, you can see they have made their way into the river. Khan as well, able to put down his mist. I believe he's immune. People have told me that. Canyon.
Have they?
The back of the pit.
It's definitely frustrating.
All summoners are up for both sides, by the way.
This is the big moment for both of these teams. EDG wanting to get to this soul point. JJ's smites have just been so good. He dives in, and of course he steals it away. Damwon Kia, can they actually find a team fight, though, is going to be the question. We still have shockwaves. There's still so much available, but Damwon Kia get denied even the fight.
He does it again. JJ gets the Dragon Smite. This is going to be huge for them. Now they don't have to worry so much about that burst damage coming out from the side of Damwon. They get to capitalize on all of their efforts. The only response is a slight move up towards Baron, but with the vision existing already here for EDG, they also get the bottom lane push. More money off the extra tower.
The only reason why Damwon would try and force that is to try and get that TP out from Flandre. At the very least, get something back from EDG, but they realize it's not worth the risk. All of EDG has just gone back to base. But let's have a look back at this steal. So it's Damwon that controlled the pit. The sleep comes through. He goes in. And I think both...
Beautiful.
Oh, I mean, that was just a great smite overall. 1,200 HP, and he's still able to secure it. And
both smites at basically the same time.
well, yeah, I mean, at the bottom, it didn't even look like Canyon threw his smite out. But I'm never too sure with those cooldowns at the bottom. Regardless, JJ is able to secure it. EDG now find themselves with a 2.5k gold lead, and they are very likely going to be taking us to that Game 5. The problem is, they haven't really won a big team fight yet. They haven't really been able to secure something massive. This soul is valuable, but we've seen many teams lose this soul before.
Yeah, the Mountain Soul isn't exactly the most coveted one. That is true, but EDG still in a great position, and if they can keep forcing Damwon to fight where they want them to and being able to deny vision like this, how does Damwon get in there? They've got Beryl that wants to be warding, but he's Nami, and you're not really very safe when you try and move in to try and get vision back. So Damwon do need to move as a unit to try and do that. EDG just have so much more power when it comes to the tempo advantages, getting their vision where they want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, the Mountain Soul actually goes a long way versus those surprise plays of the Shockwave and possible Talon combinations that come out. So it's going to do a bit to protect them of what kind of occurred earlier in mid lane too, and not having quite enough damage then to finish them off. And they should feel so confident here. I just have to say, again, re-emphasizing for EDG, being here in finals, so big for the LPL, and so much success off of one of the youngest players in JJ. And he had such big shoes to fill coming into this organization. You know, everybody always had eyes on Clear Love for the entire history of the organization.
Yeah.
But he's really putting up when the team needs him most.
I mean, it's been a it's been an up and down year for EDG for sure. Their spring split was not the strongest, falling short, but in summer they really did step up. Many people didn't even expect them to take down FPX, but they really have been a very strong representative for the LPL. And while there have been a lot of doubters, I think that EDG is silencing a lot of those doubters and putting up a very strong performance here against Damwon. Let's see if they can close this out. And I just want to highlight MVP top tier 1. One of the big things and why this has been so valuable is Flandre has been able to sit bot lane, and EDG really haven't had to worry about that top side of the map because every time Damwon pushes in a wave, this tower prevents that wave from ever going past the river. So even though they may be losing farm at times, it's not a point that they really need to be concerned about, and it means that they can keep playing through 2 lanes, which EDG much prefers because then they can keep the Zoe with the group, and the poke is always a threat.
EDG trying to get some control back of this mid lane, doing okay at the moment. Someone with that control ward down, but EDG very swiftly taking it away. Vision being put down as soon as this Baron was started up, as Canyon able to parkour his way into the Brambleback pit, so he will be absolutely fine. But now EDG get themselves together. If that beach ball had landed, could have been a very dangerous time for Damwon here. With this Baron on the board, 2 minutes until the Elder Drake, where all of those big questions get to be asked by EDG with their control of the map state. Certainly is going to be on them to be able to control how this one works out. Close to a 3,000 gold lead, but I mean, it's starting to mean less and less as we tick past 30 minutes into this game.
Oh god, that's melting.
Yeah, this is going down so incredibly fast, and no one is in position. They just didn't even really know. It's Khan bounces into the pit and decides that he doesn't want that whatsoever. He will get popped, and now Damwon find themselves with a man disadvantage, and EDG with Baron as well.
EDG are pushing Damwon all over this map. Thankfully for Canyon, Talon is fine with being pushed all over the map because he can keep jumping, but that's not going to save them from this Baron push. This is going to be absolute control from EDG. Another objective. This one just burned down by them with superior positioning, getting there first, immediately just unloading into it, and we're stopping some of the backs here too. They can take over everything.
Flandre is an absolute monster in this top lane. Level 18, by far the highest level in the game. He has 4 items completed, one of them being the Infinity Edge. No one can touch him in the 1v1 right now. And off the back of a Baron, EDG are going to very quickly take down 2 tier 3 towers.
This is actually reminding me of some of Flandre's old Gangplank games where he just gets levels seemingly out of nowhere and then he rocks up to a team fight with all of the items in the universe. This is, of course, dating back to quite a long time, but that's exactly what he's done right here. This Graves is 6 levels ahead of Beryl.
That's what dedication to pushing your side lanes gets you. Remember that mid lane play that we talked about where Damwon forced it by keeping all 5 in mid and brute force taking the tower and picking up the extra kill? EDG, well, Bubble lands here, actually.
Yeah, this could be the pick up. The minion wave turns up in the nick of time, but Ghost could be the one to go down, and he absolutely is. The Heartbreaker comes in, but now JJ in a bit of trouble. He just gets himself over the wall. Canyon explodes as well, as Nami's turned into a fish finger. Showmaker now at about no health, as Khan's doing his very best to be the hero, but it's not going to happen this game. As Damwon Kia are routed once again, they're running the wrong direction, and EDG should be taking this game. In fact, Blandre, he's taking inhibitors himself.
Rumors of the LPL's demise have been greatly exaggerated at Worlds this year, my friends. EDG will just put a stomp down on game number 4. Push us to Silver Scrapes, push us to that game 5, Atlas.
Now they both have a match point. We are going the whole distance. I don't think anyone was predicting 5 games to this series. I absolutely didn't, but I am so happy that we get to this moment and we get to see whether EDG can do it again. They've been put in this position in exactly the same way. It happened last semi-final. I think we know what the script says.
JJ, put some respect on his name, okay? Absolutely controlled from beginning to end.
And also just the adaptations in draft. Yeah, okay, they had the Nami taken away from them, but they also got themselves the Zoe. They had a very strong top side of the map, and it felt like from start to finish, Damwon's only